that at least we're guaranteed of a family setup that is good. And so today we want to base our focus on, relationships and communication, how important it is. We also agree that the family setup begins at that level of a relationship. As basic as the relationship would be, it is really, really important that we have the aspect of communication in it. And let alone the family setup or, that social aspect and relationship aspect. Every day-to-day activity is hugely determined by how we communicate. The success of the activities that you do, on a daily basis are hugely determined of how well you can communicate with everybody that you're meeting or anybody that, you would want to have on board, especially when you're thinking about achieving something. And so communication is crucial in every aspect. And so today, as we look at the relationships, we have relationships experts. I don't know why it's a bit of a tongue twister, relationship experts, yes. As always, Doctors Jane and Julius are here for us to get to learn some bits, of how we can handle our relationship from them. I always try my level best, to pick topics that I discuss from them and sometimes from you. Really, really important. You, because you matter a lot, and from them because they're specialists and they have dealt with these cases on numerous occasions, and so they understand well where it fits best and where it pinches the best. And so they say it is important that we speak of communication. It is the root of all the troubles. Not communication is the root, but bad communication or communication that does not yield proper fruits is really, really important that we get this. Sometimes you just keep silent, and that is good communication. So we get to learn the importance of communication in a relationship and how it comes in handy to save relationships that are almost dwindling, and how it comes in handy to make sure that a good relationship keeps being good. Karibuni, Daktari.
Thank you.
Dr. Jane here, Kimani, and Dr. Julius Kimani.
Thank you.
Asante sana. So relationships and communication. And one would want to ask, just what is communication, especially when we're talking about relationships?
Yeah, communication builds up every angle of relationships, whether it is a cordial relationship, a good or a bad relationship, whatever is in your heart is felt via the way you communicate.
Yeah.
We've got, of course, a lingo, we've got the nonverbal,
Yeah.
and especially that happens a lot with us women. You may be angry and you're saying nothing, but the faces you're making, on their own, they're enough communication that you're not happy. And so, communication is meant to further better a relationship, where you're able to say, this is where it hurts, this is where we can work on, this is what I like, because it's not necessarily about what is not good, but this is what I like about you, work on it even more or maintain this. So the way we say it and the way it is perceived are two different things.
Okay.
So again, we need to work in communication to ensure that what we say and what is perceived by the other person, which is equally important, is at par.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in this case, clarity comes in. So, Daktari, please make us understand, in the simplest of languages or in the simplest of, ways, what we mean when we say communication in a relationship. And importantly, then, is communication just communication when it comes to a relationship, or clear communication in this case? Probably that then would determine whether whatever it is that you're communicating is perceived the same way as you'd want it to be perceived when it reaches the other end.
True. When you talk about good communication, we have a lot of talking in marriages, but no understanding. Now, so when you're talking about communication, we are saying, number one, that what you say must be understood by the other person.
Okay.
That is key number one. Number two, how you express yourself must go hand in hand in the way you are saying it. Because you could be saying, I'm not happy about that issue, but the way you're making faces, as Dr. Jane said, it shows more resentment than just what you're saying. So it needs to be so clear. The best example I would say is like when you call somebody, you don't talk at the same time.
Okay.
And so that's not communication. So communication is actually waiting for the other person to express themselves either verbally or non-verbally to the point that you understand. Okay. It is not about you doing, at the same time. Otherwise, that is not communication.
Women are not so good at being good listeners, and then now that probably disqualifies us to be, good communicators. How do you handle this? Because I want to talk every other time, and I have that problem. I'll tell you for free. Sometimes it's not even about quarreling, but even on a simple, basic talk that would be good. I always find myself wanting to speak more than the other. And even when they're speaking, I'm busy trying to also put up my point.
You know what do you say? Of course, it shows that women have more words.
Yes.
Simply because of the way they are created, their brain is wired. They have more words to say than men have to say.
Okay.
And it is good to understand. As men, it is good to understand your woman, because if you ask her, for example, how was your day, you don't expect her to say fine. She may have to define the day from morning, the details that happen in the office. So if you're a man and you ask that question and you're not ready to listen, then you'll be destroying actually good communication.
Okay.
And so it begins with, number one, as a woman, understanding that you love talking and choosing very well when to talk, and whether the other person is ready to listen to you. Okay. Number two, on the other side of the man, he needs to understand that when he asks the question to a woman, then she's bound to use more words to expound a thing.
Yes.
So you must also be ready. As a man, you must be ready to listen.
Yeah.
Because if you're not ready to listen, then you break the entire essence of communication in that relationship. Yes.
All right.
Actually, women have a boss, Well, how we're created, our LAD, language acquisition device, in the brain is like 2 or 3 times larger than most men.
Okay.
So that means we acquire language faster and we can speak faster. Number two, our brain is not separated. He can explain the brain of a man has got a separation, and so his communication is slowed down by the mechanical makeup of their brain.
Okay.
Ours is one, so our communication device is bigger. Number two, our emotional, our space for emotions is larger. So at times we want to speak our emotions. Incidentally, when you're speaking emotions, 90% of women. Because if you actually decipher what you said, the question was, did you take the child to school?
Yes or no?
The answer is so linear, very linear. Men like communication that's linear. Yes, no. But for us, we are circular. Before you get to that one, every emotion, as I was going, I met your friend. To you, all these things about the journey carry an emotion. And that's why we tell women, number one, answer your question directly, then go to the stories. And also tell men, be better. Actually, we are better listeners than men.
Oh, yeah?
By far, we are better listeners. The challenge with men, they will pretend to listen, but they switch off.
Okay.
A man can be looking at you, even shaking the head, and you realize he switched off when he should have said no, and he's still shaking the head, nodding yes, on affirmative. And the answer is supposed to be no. And I remember growing up, there are times when it would happen, I told my mom would be, you are not listening.
Oh,
the answer is supposed to be no. And then, so men have got an ability in their brain to switch off.
Okay.
And by the way, a lot of the verbosity is too many words that we women use. They
automatically switch off.
They automatically, and I tell men, be a good listener. Because when a woman feels like you are not listening, you didn't respond accordingly. Because when they switch off, they don't know what you are saying, by the way.
Wow.
So they respond by trying to give you a solution. So we tell men, be a good listener. Put away the newspaper, switch off the TV, and listen. Because communication has to be worked out.
Dr. Julius speaks to the different parts that we have in our brains.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking there are women who don't speak as much as I do. So I can imagine mine is it has like 50 compacts deep inside there. So it's a bit of a problem here. So evidently it means that there's a lot of learning to do. A lot of learning in the side of men, in the sense that you say, you know what, we understand that yours is just one compact in the brain, and therefore you have a huge ability of switching off. But then in this case, we want to train you
Yes.
to be a good listener, and therefore,
Thank you.
adjust your brain somehow. And for the women again, we know that you have millions of compacts inside your brain, but then again, we also want you to understand the right time to speak and the words to say and what should come first and what should come after.
True.
What goes into all this learning?
No, by the way, it is just the being deliberate.
Okay.
Being deliberate that you married a person, for example, and you want to live with them in a better way. And the only way to live in a better way is by learning who they are. And the only way you can learn how they are is by listening to them.
Okay.
Now, the only thing that we say when it comes to men, men are overwhelmed when there is too much emotion. Now, they don't know what to do when you begin to cry.
Okay.
Now, that confuses a man. So if you're a woman, make sure that when you're communicating, number one, ensure that if you're going to cry, you better pause at that particular moment and don't say anything else. Because now he doesn't know how to handle emotions. Because men are not wired for emotions.
Okay.
That's why you find, especially in places like funerals, men walk away because they don't know what to deal with all those people who are crying. And women tend to move in to comfort everybody. And that is not it's not that they're insensitive. It's only that they don't know how to handle. So that's why we say that as a woman, remember, when you put too much emotion into that conversation, he may not be able to pay attention. Put facts in, then he will begin to pick up everything. That's why, as Dr. Jane was saying, when you're communicating, men can switch off and waiting for the facts in between. So, and suddenly he will remind you, so you want to go to Mombasa. All that time you're saying, last Sunday, last whatever, we were supposed to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you say, Mombasa was more important. So you say, so you wanted to go to Mombasa.
Go straight to the point.
Is that what you're saying? And he may repeat that, and you are getting annoyed because you wanted to pass other things, some other things that you wanted for him to pay attention. But that's why we say, if you're a woman, make sure you look on how to deliver the facts early enough. Then bring up the stories. If you bring up the stories later, he'll even be willing to listen.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's interesting right there. Oh, I have picked a lesson today. So, before we go to the non-verbal communication, which is very common, like you say, sometimes women will pull all the signs on planet Earth. They're trying to let you see. So imagine if this person cannot listen to you for 3 minutes and understand everything that you're saying. What more when you're now trying to busy pass signs? They probably are not even going to grasp anything.
Actually, know that they don't grasp anything. Now they grasp anger.
Okay. At that point when you're communicating non-verbally, like you're not saying anything, but you...
And it makes them super angry.
Whether you are pulling good signs or bad signs.
Yes, because, when a child is born, a boy child is born, they learn to read you by your emotions.
Okay.
And that's why even when a boy child is breastfeeding, they look straight into your eyes.
Unlike the girl child?
The girl child is about touch.
Okay.
So a girl will be touching your face and all this, but a boy will be gazing. Because that boy wants to see how much value do I have in my eyes. And that's why I tell mamas, right from the beginning, do not give this child attention when you're also on the phone. Give him intentional attention. And it is the same thing while they're growing. They never change from that.
Okay.
Men will want to read you from your face, and it is even louder than your words. And at times they will try to fix their eyes to see. Now, at times we send a different message because they can see, that brow is raised up a bit when they are trying to be arrogant, when you're trying to be arrogant or proud, or when you're angry, you begin to roll eyes and you think he can't see. So it communicates to him that now you're trying to show me you're angry or irritated. By then they can interpret the signs more than we can do. Okay. It's very hard for you to explain what the man, his facial expressions are communicating. It's so very hard, unless it is something obvious. Like, just throwing your hand and that one is saying, give me a break. And so what does it mean? When they begin to see on your face communication that's showing I'm bored, or exactly what you're trying to say, or I don't like the way you're saying it, or I'm communicating with anger. What does it do? Now, the most, how can I say it, close to life emotion a man has is anger.
Okay.
Because they've got a very small amount of the comfort hormone, serotonin. So because they don't have a lot of comfort, now their next emotion is anger. Because to him, he'll interpret it like, unanidharau. He has a lot, and especially while growing up, his school of learning, he will pick it from there. This is to show me I don't make sense. This is to show me I'm not as intelligent as you, and so it breeds anger. When anger comes in, there's no communication.
Zero communication.
He will walk out. Some will be violent. Some will begin to raise their voices. Others now will begin to shout at what you're trying to say and shout you down. So that's why I tell ladies, it's important you first organize your speech within you. And don't communicate at the spur of the moment that this thing has just annoyed me and you can't wait. And you're like, do you know how much it has annoyed me? No, there'll be no communication. Sleep over it. Put your words in order. Put your faces down.
I doubt whether it's easy to wait that long before you say it. Dr. Let's go to the positive for a moment. Nonverbal communication, when you're communicating, that love language, the nice things, it's not necessarily that, you're trying to show this person that you're agitated, you're irritated, you're mad and all that. There are times that you communicate, without having to say anything. But these are nice actions. These are actions to tell you that I appreciate you. Thank you for doing this. Sometimes, he's really mad and then you bring in that soup and say, let's enjoy the soup. So you probably, I am personally very proud. I will not even tell you that now I'm so happy at what I will just do something to say thank you.
Seriously?
Yes.
I like that.
You know yourself.
No, I don't.
You won't go and tell him thank you, Abby.
Kibahati sana.
Oh, we are so glad.
And especially maybe he made me mad yesterday and probably I've gotten over it. And so the next day I am to say, it's all good. I will not say it.
Thank you. It's so good to know you. When you know yourself.
Yes.
And the truth is we all know ourselves. And our limits and breaking points.
Yes. And so, in this case, I am making soup, I am cooking, I am waking up very early in the morning to just to show you that we are okay.
You see one thing. You see you need to communicate that to your spouse. That when you see me do 1, 2, 3 things, then no, I'm expressing.
Yes.
You get it?
Let me run you.
Interpret it.
You see, one of the things
where
in proper communication is not about making the other person to be a mind reader.
Oh.
Because that's trying to make somebody a prophetic.
Figure out.
So in every effective communication is ensuring that you don't assume the other person knows what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why we say put words into it. You can relate as if anytime you see me making chapatis for you, then know it's an expression of love. You have already laid a foundation. So when he sees you making chapati, and now probably the day you make, you probably want to punish him and you're making some bad food. Then you tell him, Ali, anytime you see me, I'm making some funny food for you.
Like
just know
for you,
the way she would, only Ali days.
Was, okay.
I don't like Githeri.
So in this case,
when she's annoyed, then I would be able.
Communication.
It would be the food for punishment.
Okay.
So, but I knew it. So the thing is, is that there is nothing as powerful as spoken words.
Okay.
So no matter how you feel on the inside, make sure you make the effort to say it. But as we always say, it is important to know the love languages of your spouse.
Yeah.
Because like the way you're saying, you're more of an action person. You're a person who prefers to serve. And that service is a way of showing that I love you and I appreciate you. Somebody else wants to hear words. Another person wants a touch. There is somebody who will not take an apology. Even if you say, I'm sorry, they will not feel like you've said sorry until you hug them.
Flowers and you hug them.
You hug them, now they feel like, wow, that's a good thing. Others will give, the people whose language of love is gift, they will not take an apology nicely until you come with a gift, maybe a chocolate or flowers or dress, and you're saying sorry to them. Others is acts of service. They want to be served. So you may say, sorry, I'm so sorry for doing that. But when they see you're saying sorry and you're bringing a cup of coffee, then they're like, you have served me. That shows you value me so much.
Okay.
Another person's love language is time. You may say sorry, but they want to you spend time with them, then they feel you really, really meant what you said. So there are different styles of communication depending on who you are. And it is good to know your spouse's love language so that you deliver through that language. Yes.
Well, amazing. And now that you mentioned time, coupling it with what Dr. Jane said, that you don't just decide that at this part of the moment you want to say what you want to say. So choosing the right time is crucial, and especially in marriages. Sometimes he comes home, he's tired, you know, from work and the troubles of life. It's at that point that you want to place all the troubles on the table. So how best do you decide that now this is the most ripe moment to raise this issue?
Let me say this, for women we keep planning. Do you know a woman can even wake somebody in the night?
I am extremely notorious.
Can we talk? Can we talk?
Can we talk?
Yeah,
and the man's brain, by the time it wakes up and tunes up now to you, and then it's a conversation, you want to bring and then the conversation is not even favoring him, it will take him, he will wake up after you are long done with your speech.
Wow.
So I tell people, number one, men are competitive. When they leave that house, they've got testosterone that helps them compete. It competes for them to get that bread, for them to do that job. Even if they're running for a matatu, they do it with this thing of, I've got to get that matatu, I've got to get into this bus, I've got to get to this job, I've got to sell something. So when they come back home, it's like battery low. It's like a phone that has been used up. Whether he was looking for a job and he didn't get any, he's not battery low. So what happens when the man is battery low? The worst thing you can do is to get your phone and keep on trying to take photos, messages, and it's showing you battery low. There are things that will not be processed.
Okay.
So what do? Give it time to charge. When it is fully charged, then you can use your phone.
Okay.
The same thing, understand what fully charges your husband. When he comes home tired, the last thing he wants to hear is about hakuna unga, stima imekatwa. You know, hata mtoto wako enda shule. No. Now you're draining the phone beyond its limit, and that's why they walk out. And some of them will walk out, go to the pub because they're running away. Or go out anywhere just for a walk.
Which is the most annoying thing. You
Yes,
don't want him to get out of
no, you see, you're broken communication. Because he needed to sit and hear you. So I tell ladies, based on the wiring of a man, let him come home. Let him, number one, understand your comfort zone, his comfort zone. Most men, when they come home, they need like 15, 30 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
And at that point, they've got something that refreshes them and makes them recharge. For some of them, it is a shower. He wants to come home to a quiet place, take a shower, perhaps dress lighter, relax, have a cup of tea, and then after a few minutes, his mind now is set to have a conversation. For others, they want to come home and eat. Before you feed him with something, it doesn't recharge him. So you've got to understand his comfort. There is one who was telling us the husband likes PlayStation. He'll come from work, go to the PlayStation for 30 minutes, competing with himself. And if the son is around, they do PlayStation.
Yeah.
Don't discuss with him anything difficult. So understand your spouse. After that moment, which takes about max to an hour, and he has already refreshed himself, now you can communicate.
Why does this appear as though it's favoring the men so much? It's always for us to figure out what the men want, at what time we need to talk to them. What about us?
I think, let me answer that as he answers that. Yeah? The good book tells us a wise woman builds her own home.
I know it says that.
So the skill of building the home is on the woman.
Okay.
But the feminists of this generation,
It's unfair. Right?
the feminist of this generation, aka, I'll not mention Linda, is
You already
suddenly
mentioned
feeling
Linda.
like, I did. He's suddenly feeling like, you know what? It's also about me.
I know.
And let me tell you, when you do that, because I've done that, we've been married for 20-some, I would realize I would give him his first attention, even when our babies were small. After that, he takes over. He will put the babies to, I'll go to the salon now, catch up.
Oh, yeah?
He'll put the babies to
Please
sleep.
don't give him all the secrets, though.
Yeah, no, that was then. Now the babies are out. They campus high school. Yeah, he'll put the babies to sleep. He'll do everything because all they need is their space. Then after that, they will become everything for you.
Oh, nice.
And then after they become everything for you, don't manipulate it.
Okay.
But actually you can tell him, no, you know what? I want to go and have my nails done. But you have given him his comfort. He feels now I'm at my zone. I can handle the world. Go have your nails done. You won't.
Now you speak for the ladies.
Yeah. Of course, ladies, as we said, one of the most important things is to listen.
Yeah.
Because they want to tell you their stories. They want to tell you about the clothes they bought. They want to tell you about the day they had in the house, what the cat did.
And some that you didn't even see while they were being shown.
Yeah.
You're trying to show this dress looking nice.
And
yes. And he's on the phone. You're thinking, yes, do you have compound eyes?
That's what we are saying. You see now, when you're now talking about the lady.
Yes.
Because we say now to the men, they ought to listen. When a woman begins to talk, then you need to listen to her 100%. Yeah. Because everything that they say matter to them, no matter how small. Number two, women don't communicate. Most of the time, they're not looking for a solution. They're just looking for somebody to listen. They can tell anything. That's why sometimes women will be cooking and they're talking to pans. They'll be cooking and they're talking to the cat in the house. And if you ask them, why are you talking to yourself? They say they're talking to something. So if you become that something that can be talked to, and just to listen, and don't offer solutions. You know, because men tend to think, to listen with their mind processing a solution. You know, like a woman comes and says, my office was hard. You know, my boss spoke to me like this today. And the guy is like, you know what you need to do? Tomorrow when your boss speaks like this, do 1, 2, 3. And the lady was not looking for the solution. She just wanted to speak so that you listen and you empathize with her. Yeah. So what we say to men, and I've also learned along the path of the way, because most times she would come with challenges and we'll begin to see solutions. And I'll begin to tell her, you know, you did wrong here.
Especially now, when the wrong person is a lady. You should have not done that to her. And you're thinking,
that is the worst.
So you learn now not to give solutions.
Okay.
If a woman wants to give to get a solution, she will say, what should I do after her story?
After her story, okay.
So don't ask a question to a lady unless you are ready to listen.
Okay.
Number two, as you said, timing is so key. Because sometimes we want to start conversations at the wrong time. You start calling your wife when she's going to the shower. And you know the shower is it's a very important time for a woman.
For a woman,
you know, men rush in and the water then out. Women, they want to spend time there. Now you're telling her, please, I want to talk to you a little bit. Now that time she's like, or when she's going to the salon, you're telling her, we need to have this conversation. Now you might have her there, but her thoughts will be on her head.
You know, you remind me of this one time with that person. Of course, he's in a relationship, and so he's actually married. And so very early in the morning, he tells you, you know, I'm going to do this thing. Please pray for me. And it's at that point, I am supposed to be in the office by 5. You have to wait. And it's prayer. Something as, you know, as important as prayer. And we had to say, you know what, don't worry, I'll pray for you while I'm in the car.
Yeah.
It was that bad. Yeah. All right, well, we'll take a breather and we come back and get to understand some more on that. I am picking so many lessons on this. All right, welcome back to the broadcast. We still have the Kimanis here. And I went to school to learn communication, but I just realized that I'm not a good one. And if I am a good one, then it's in my field, it's in my career. It's career-wise. Otherwise, at home, not my thing at all. But all the same, there's that aspect of learning. And so I think that's the most beautiful thing that we're going to come out, you know, from this place with, because then we'll be learning, or, you know, just getting to understand how best you can learn some of these, you know, communication skills that we all do not have. At some point in time, you know, you're getting into this terrain, you are new, it's probably your first relationship, you do not know this person, she comes from a different world, he comes from a different world, and therefore communication is crucial, but equally learning the art of it is what counts the most. And so we have talked about a couple of things, but there are instances where you want to communicate using the children or using the members of the family, and it is really, really common that the dad says, you know, now he's telling the kids, yeah, and you're saying mutakula githeri leo.
The second object, communication, yeah, and at times it can be the third object, like the cat.
Yes.
Kazi yako tu ni kukula nyama hujanunua, hata maziwa haununui, haujui bei ya maziwa wewe paka toka. That time you're trying to tell the husband, have you bought milk?
Yeah.
Or you're asking me for tea. So there is that second, third, or vice versa. The husband will be asking the cat on behalf of the wife. So the second, third object does not communicate. By the way, it brings a lot of anger. You know, communication is supposed to make your relationship happier, easier. It's supposed to make everyday living more. How can I put it? More fun, more fun. Because now I understand you, understand me. But when now you can't communicate to the children, now you put the children under duress. Because you have told children things that are so hard for them, and they are thinking, what could I do so that tusikule githeri?
Yeah.
What have we done so that? And that's why a lot of divorces children feel guilty. Because the dad used to say, mtanijua leo. Then they hear him beating your mom. But it was them that caused him to give this communication. Right. So we should not cause duress to our children. A lot of children are going through issues that are not their age related. And I tell parents, before a child turns 13, let's say 15, 16, they've not yet fully formed their stress hormone, cortisol. It has not been processed in their system. So when stress lands on their system for so long, they've got to get a way of venting it out. And that's why you're having young people who are on drugs, because it gives them a high of serotonin. And that's the high that we're looking for, because they don't know how to handle any situation. And at times, for others, they get arrogant and they get very bad. So what do we do when they communicate through the other party? Tell them, Baba Joroge, achana na watoto, will have that conversation, the two of us.
Okay. And
also tell the children, as a wise mother, don't mind your dad. When he says this, don't mind him. He's a good man. Oh, yeah. Let your children constantly know that that's a good man. Linda!
Ah, okay.
To good where?
Good. You know, I am a very honest person. And so if I feel you're not good, I don't know how I'll tell my kids that you're good.
Agreed. Agreed. I'm also very blunt. Yeah. However, you've got to protect these children. And how good is this man to the children? He gave birth to them. Okay. You don't need to tell them in reference to anything. But generally, he's a good man. He's a good father. He loves you. Hardly will you hear a man saying, I hate my children. That is enough to tell them he's a good man. It relieves them a lot of stress. And when your issues are going on, they know, sisi hatuko hapo. Okay. And I tell a wise woman, take the fight to the bedroom, not physical. Take the argument, take the quarrel to the bedroom, or wait until the children go to sleep. Because it takes two to tangle. A man cannot keep, quarreling, arguing alone unless you put an input. Then it becomes a fight or a quarrel. You let him talk alone. When they've gone to sleep, tell him, Baba so and so, this is the way it was supposed to be. He will learn from you that you don't want to communicate in front of children because they get stressed, and that is unnecessary.
All right, so Dr. Julius, in this case then we have two things. There's that communication that is extremely, alarming. It says there's a problem here. And there's that one that, is to say that I appreciate my wife, I appreciate my husband, I love my home, I love my family. These two could be intense, or could be, on extremes. So is it okay to communicate the extremes of the good things in the presence of the kids? Yeah. Or, and I mean, the extremes of the bad in their presence? At least Dr. Jane says, if it is that bad, wait until they are all going to sleep and discuss. What about the extremes of the good things that you want to communicate?
You see, you want to make your children to learn how to appreciate.
Yes.
And when you do that in front of your kids, for example, when you say, for example, to your wife, that we appreciate the way you have cooked the food, you appreciate the way you have done the house, then you're teaching these kids on how to learn how to appreciate. And you say, even if you want to say the negative things, there is what we call the sandwich principle. Okay. The sandwich means you appreciate, then you say what was negative, and then you cover it with a good. Okay. So that's a sandwich principle. So you can, for example, you can say, Mama watoto, I love the way you cook. And that's a very nice thing. Okay. But you always serve. Lakini avoid serving me cold food.
Okay.
But the plates you use,
they
are top notch.
The kitchen is clean.
The kitchen is clean. So what you have done, you have, by the time she is about to get angry, you have covered it with a very nice thing. And that's the same thing with the women. You can do the same thing to your man, even to your kids. Use the sandwich principle. Before you say the negative, look for the goods, because that prepares, it primes the mind to listen. For example, you've already started telling your kid, you performed so well in school. The mind opens up.
Okay.
And then you say, but the challenge was that I was called to your school once because you did 1, 2, 3 things. I didn't like that. Then you say, but looking at the results, you can even do better.
Wow.
Now, at the end of the day, you have made that person to feel like you appreciated them more. And that is one of the secrets. Something else that you need to do. Linda is trying to imagine.
I'm happy that at least I'm carrying my sandwich home today for once there's something to take home.
And our village mothers would chase you with a kitchen.
I know, before the sandwich, there was no time for that. I know.
Thank God we have it in town now. And in this generation.
I'm a burger.
I'm a burger.
A burger is even better because now it's huge.
Bigger. Yeah.
So,
and it has variety.
It has variety. So again, something else we say, even if you're going to communicate something harsh, touch is so powerful in calming down somebody.
Touch.
Yeah,
touch. Okay.
For example, if I say, I'm really annoyed by what you did today. But the fact that I'm touching her, I've already released a calming effect. I'm not against you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we say, if you're going to release some heavy things, get closer to your husband, get closer to your wife, and touch that person.
By the way, it communicates very easily, because touch for even a cat, the moment you lay your hand on it, there is a soothing, actually, to go deeper in it, it's a hormone that's released that gives this peace. So when they're saying everything, there's a cushion of peace.
Okay.
Unless it's very aggressive.
Now that's when you can play there's a problem. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So touch is very, very important. Number 2, not raising your voice. You could be 2 people, but if you're raising a voice at each other and you're very close, it shows a distance between the 2 of you.
Okay.
In your heart, it's like this person is in Meru, I'm in Makueni. But actually you're living in the same house. That's why people shout at each other.
Okay.
Emotional distance. Anytime you hear people shouting, there's a lot of emotional distance. It's like somebody feels like you're so far away from me, I'm so far away from you. But because there is nothing I can do to reach to you, because we are so distant, I can only shout. And you can only shout back, because one thing gives back another time. And that's another very unhealthy mode of communication. When you see such happening in your relationship, go back to the roots and ask yourself, when did we depart from each other so far? What is it that has brought such big wedges that I feel like he's just so far, and she feels like she's just so far. You don't even need anybody to tell you how close you are to each other, how far you are to each other. It is by the tone of the voice.
All right, amazing. Daktari, the things that are just too hard to communicate, it's just difficult to say this. You want to say it, you don't know how, you don't know when, you don't know why you even have to say it. It is hard.
No, I know sometimes it's you go through an issue and you're like, how do I communicate this?
And sometimes it could be even something that affects you, but you're thinking now, how do I tell
how
them
do I communicate this? Now, what we say, it is so important to use you.
Okay.
Avoid the you. Now the pointing of fingers. Because the moment you point a finger, you did this and it made me so annoyed. Already that person, you've put the person on defense, and they are more likely to not to listen to you, and they will lash back.
Okay.
But you say, when you communicate, I feel disappointed by you coming late every night. You are saying how you're feeling, but you're not telling that person, you're not accusing that person. But if you come and you say, you are such a careless you don't even think about us. You come late every night. Already you have put that person on defense mode. So we say, use less of you and more of I.
Okay.
Because now you are not attacking that person, but you're expressing how you feel about the whole situation.
Yeah. And
Something else, don't label. You know, labeling is where you are such a nagging person. That's labeling. You can say, I really hate being nagged. That's better than saying you are a nagger.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and also use the we.
All right.
The I and the we. We need to hear this. Let it also be like something that has got direction. Never communicate something that's so hard where there is no direction for where you're going to. Don't look at it like, I feel I need to move on because of you. It is so conclusive. Use the we. What do you think we need to do about this matter? What do we think we are standing at? As much as you already know, you want to hear his position, but you want to hear his position as an inclusive position, not exclusive. The moment somebody feels excluded, they already get into defense mode. Okay, I'm not in your life, it looks like, okay, you just continue. And then suddenly communication dies. Yeah, so no labeling, and always put the we or the I, not the you.
Okay, amazing. I hope you've heard that. So we have picked lessons somehow, even as we had that conversation. But I guess it's important that we go down into the specifics. You know, we speak of listening. Listening is really hard for very many people, especially the women. And so we'll love to learn, how do we improve our communication in our relationship, especially on the aspect of listening. You know, I just don't know how today I'll sit down and listen. You could be the person who's bringing the issue on the table, but I already like, I don't know. I am hugely relating this to my situation because I can literally visualize. Even at that point you said, you know, touch is very important. I could literally visualize that moment when, you know, someone has spoken to you like this. And, you know, for a moment it feels very nice. Even when it's quite offensive, even when they're telling you something that is quite hard to process. There's just something good about it. And so here we are. Listening could be a problem, and many other things could be a problem in terms of communication. How do we improve our communication skills at that level of a relationship?
We say, you know, the good book says, listen more, talk less. You know, and if we have been told that's why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So listening is something that you do intentionally. Think about your phone. If somebody calls you, you will first want to listen. You ask a question and you wait for the other person. There is something we say in communication. It's like you don't speak until you have the ball. For example, when you're learning communication, the person who's speaking is the one holding the ball. So you don't take the ball, or you don't start speaking until they give the ball to you. And sometimes we practice with couples that way. You allow them to speak and they're holding the ball, and they can, even if they're going to speak for 1 hour, as long as they're speaking for 1 hour, then you listen. And make sure that you are picking what they're saying, not listening so that you can counter. Because many times in relationships, we listen to defend ourselves and to attack that person. But now, any person that is coming to communication, think about it. We are here to build this relationship. How do we build this relationship if we solve the problems that we have? And how do we solve the problem that we have if you can only listen to me and you hear the things that are eating me up in this relationship? After he has or she has said what is eating them in that relationship, first want to know, what do you want me to do? Because they may tell you, all I want you to be doing is to be coming at 8:30 instead of 9. And that brings us, most people are carrying the solution that they need. So you find many times if you listen, it makes it better for the other person. It reduces anger. Do you know when somebody just sits back and they're listening to you nicely, every tension that they were carrying, even wrong motives that they were carrying, suddenly begins to go down. Everything begins to become easy. And then when they are finished speaking, there is a very simple thing you can say, I've heard. Nimekusikia. Sasa, what do you want me to do? Do you know you have thrown the ball back to the person? He's actually supposed to come up with a solution.
Again.
He comes up with a solution because he was telling you what he's annoyed with. Now you have given him another work. Now tell me what you want to do. Now listen to that person. Then, now when you tell that person, now listen to me, that person will be willing to listen because you give them more opportunity. Seed time and harvest.
You know, I'm thinking, how many times we snatch the ball, especially women.
It's like Chelsea and it is like it's like Chelsea and
quarters of my life, the ball is on my side.
I wait until you pass the ball.
Yes.
And, okay, that's a good discipline, and we keep learning. But at times,
the snatching happens too
much. And I talk as quickly as I can.
Or you pick another one from the side.
From the side and say, I also have the ball. Yeah.
And that is when it completely fails. You know, for men, it's so easy to just give the ball and listen, because naturally they don't have many words, and naturally they put their feelings, because they are logical and they're analytical, into sentences. You know, I think you should be coming, but for us, that coming back early is coupled with a fear. Could he be having an affair outside?
Yeah. Now that he's pretending to come home early so we don't suspect anything.
That is why you may not even get the wait to get the ball, but you need to. You know, I'm talking. You know, the mistakes we make. At times, your thoughts are like, he's talking like this to show he's not very good. Does he forget how he has hurt me? Because as we relate with pain, emotional pain, they do not relate with emotional pain. They relate with logics and facts. Okay. So what we need to train ourselves, and I tell women, if you have to talk, put water in your mouth and don't swallow until it's your time to talk.
It appears a joke, but it could work, you know. It does work.
It does. I've trained a lot
Most of them will swallow so quickly.
No. Until it's your time to talk, swallow. If not that, if there's a lot of tension, chew a gum. And don't forget and chew it so openly to his mouth.
Like that. Although you have to be
irritated. Yeah, just get your mind a bit distracted while you're still listening. You know, tap something. But usually I tell women, force yourself to listen. And also tell the men, don't give a lecture. Some of them like lectures. They wish they were teachers, but they didn't get the slot. They're mechanics.
So now they're doing it here.
No, they're giving a lesson of life. To one person, a lesson is 45 minutes in class. They're still back to class because you have decided to keep quiet. Now they start, and they will go long distance lecturing you. And at that point, they're comparing, you know how good women behave, and you are wishing I could get that ball and tell you. Look for those good women. You know, women, the truth is this, our internal monologue is more than our external monologue.
Yes.
The internal monologue, the conversation we have inside, when they start talking like the comparing, you're trying to be so good and you're thinking, Meko, why didn't you marry that one? You know, so I also tell people when they're communicating, do not compare. Talk a conversation that will build you and will build the two of you. If the ball is on your side, don't use that opportunity to hurt.
That's true.
And then you say, you know, we're told you shouldn't talk until I give you the ball. So you're saying, you know, Mary, when I used to date Mary, I used to find my socks clean.
Oh my God. You know what they tell you, ingekuwa mwanamke Mkikuyu hapa saa hii tungekuwa tumetengeneza siyo, and then you wonder now.
Pesa?
Hey.
I know.
Well, it could be a good thing, it could be a challenge that is coming your way. You first sit down to ask yourself, why? Did he have to use that as an example? And therefore, these examples, these challenges that we get, this comparison, and sometimes it go to levels of, you know, hitting someone, you know, and there are women who say, you know, well, unless he hits me, that's his language of love, that's to show that he's here and everything. It's happening up until date. We can't rule that out. True. And to some men, it's a form of communication, like one slap, itakunyamazisha.
No, you see one thing, we say it is important to look at the purpose of communication.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what you want is a better marriage. So don't attack the person who you want to live with. Because when you attack that person, you destroy. Every attack will always destroy. So we say empathize. Put yourself in the shoe of that person. How would you want to hear the same words spoken to you? And that's why we say ponder before you speak. Think before you speak. Because many times especially in marriage, we tend to be, whether it's a man or a woman, we tend to speak without thinking. Then after that, you realize the words that you've spoken have hurt so much, and sometimes those words never leave. And so we say, think and empathize with that person. Structure. You know, like now, Linda, if all of us work for a boss, we are very careful on how we approach that person, because we know that person can fire you.
It's true.
And so we are afraid of losing the money. Now, in marriage, we tend to forget that this person shapes a lot of your life.
Okay.
And if we only would look at them and say, this is a person, if it's a woman, this is the one who is helping my life. If it is a woman looking at the man, it says, this is a person who is providing for us. How do I communicate to him in the most wisest way? Marriages can be better if only we took time to structure our conversation and our communication without attacking the other person.
Wow. I think that's a very good note to end it at, Daktari, that sometimes we protect our jobs more. And you know, you're able to respect your boss. You can't talk back at them, but it's interesting how you can talk back at your husband without caring. So as we close.
Have good manners and live like there's a visitor. You know, when you have good manners,
live like there's a visitor, nice.
When you have good manners, you say thank you, sorry, welcome, all those good words, and live like there's a visitor. If you're arguing and a visitor walks in, you're all disciplined.
Yes.
So have good manners and live like there's a visitor.
There you go. Communication is very, very important. I am laughing again because this one speaks to me directly. Does it speak to you? And don't condemn yourself just because it's not working. I mean, there's one thing that I would have loved to touch, but time is not on our side. How do you resuscitate? How do you get that relationship back through communication? I know there's so much that can be done. It is a game changer. So why don't you try and just have that discipline that, you know, the speakers speak about and see whether it will change things. Don't keep it to yourself. If you hurt your heart, speak it out. Words have power, like you say.
True.
Asante sana. Dr. Julius Kimani and Dr. Jane Kimani, it was good having you. We close at that as we look forward to have another session with them some other time. Thank you so much, and thank you for your feedback.